Yo, 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 what's going on, everyone? It's another edition of the Streamcast. I am Black Amora. I'm going to be interviewing Taylor Ambrosio Wood. It's fantastic when we always get a guest with three names. We're going to be in elite company talking about the indie gem SLACKJAW and so much more. Get ready for the next Power Podcast. 60 minutes, give or take, of the
Streamcast.
Yo, what's going on? First of all, Taylor, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. This is so fun.
I'm glad. I'm hoping that the fun continues to the end of the episode. My name is Black Amora, for anyone who is watching and or listening. These episodes will, of course, go wherever you get your podcast. But right here, right now, we are live on YouTube. So why don't you give us a thumbs up if you're watching live and join us in the live chat or leave a comment because we're going to talk about SLACKJAW. Now, I can't wait to get into this game because it looks really, really like sickening in a really in a complimentary way, the most complimentary way. But Taylor, why don't you give us a little bit about yourself and how you got into the games industry?
Well, I've been a music composer for a minute. So after college, I've been writing music for various indie games and still doing that as well. But during the pandemic, a lot of I guess this could go into how the game started, but to switching to game dev. So I don't have a computer science degree or like anything like that, music. So music. And after that, during the pandemic, a lot of my client gigs kind of dried up. So I was like, okay, would now be the time to maybe learn game development? I don't know, maybe. So like, I dabbled around on a computer that could not handle it. And then in 2022, I got a desktop PC and then really downloaded Unreal and actually started learning it. So I've been learning it for the last couple years off and on, and then really got into it to make this game. But yes, so self-taught from YouTube on the game dev part. But that's a summary of my time in the game industry.
Very cool. And I like that you didn't go down I don't know if they're stereotypical nowadays, the computer design route, but there was definitely a time where every game dev went down that route because I don't know how to make games. Computer design seems close enough. So yeah, it's a sign of times are changing.
My assumption is that would help a lot, is my guess, because I had to learn like what is programming, like how is the language even designed of like how you build things. So my assumption is even if you don't know that game engine, knowing programming would be like, oh, well, I'm just kind of translating it. I mean, I assume, I don't know, a computer science degree person could probably say that, but my guess is it would be helpful. But maybe it was okay because I was like a blank slate, so I just accepted whatever was specific to Unreal. I was just like, oh, this is how things are. Because I have seen forums when I was looking, they're like, I'm a programmer from this other language, and this is so weird how they did it. I'm like, oh, I just accept that that's how it's done because I don't know different.
Yeah, there's some times where that actually works in your favor. So it definitely sounds like this has been that's the case for you. But before getting into programming and all of these languages and all these transferable skills, let's go back to your origin story. Do you remember your first ever game and console?
Oh, I'm not sure which came first. It was either Pokemon on the Game Boy Color, or it was our family had a family computer, in the common area. And me and my sisters would play these Mac games by Pangea Software. One was called Automatic Dinosaur. They were like the games that came with the Mac. And we would play those and we would split up the hands. So like I would move and they would do the items. Like it was a one-player game on the keyboard, but we would break it up. So it's either that or Pokemon Game Boy Color.
Oh, that's very cool. Obviously, Pokemon is... everyone's played that. Everyone knows everyone knows that franchise, of course. Do you remember which Pokemon game it was?
I know it was Crystal was one of them.
Oh, okay. Secret. I've never played that gen, and I have to fix that. I know I do, but I've never played Gold or Crystal, and yeah.
Yeah, they were great.
I've heard nothing but great things. So, come from gaming royalty, basically, and from Pokemon. And that's a really nice idea. The other game you mentioned, like splitting up a one-player game into two
Yeah,
players.
we were just
And
like, now we can both
mm,
play, and that's how we played games for many years, actually.
yeah, I like that. Not giving your sibling the controller that's not plugged in and telling them, "Oh, you're the boss," or "Oh, you're the enemy," which I've
Yeah,
heard
we
so
were
many
just,
horror
yeah,
stories about. Yeah, genuine. Oh,
teamwork.
love that. Yes, teamwork. That's the word. So, from your origin story, from your first game, what are your favorite games? Do you have a top five, a fave five list?
If I had to make like the pantheon, like I've played these games multiple times, I would replay them. And if someone was going to play them, I'd sit down to watch. It would be Resident Evil 7. So that's one. Alien Isolation. Stardew Valley, for sure. I'd put Cult of the Lamb. Cult of the Lamb in there. And that's 4. Maybe Resident Evil 2 remake. Throw that in there too. Those are like I've
Okay.
definitely played them at least twice, all those games.
Yeah.
If not half a third time or a third time, and we'll probably play them again.
That's dope. I like that you double dipped in Resident Evil. I'm definitely
Yeah,
getting
I'm like, I love
the
those too, and so they're so different. So it's like sometimes
yeah.
I want to play 7, sometimes I want to play 2.
Yeah, and I was discussing this with someone at work actually. I like how they are going back and remaking a lot of the old Resident Evil games. I wonder if they'll remake 5 because 2 obviously
Oh,
did amazingly well. 3 did well as well in its own right. I personally really like 4, even though Ashley is the worst gaming companion of all time. But I want to see if they remake 5, and I don't know if there's much scope for 6 as well. With obviously 7 being on the
I don't know. I
PS4.
never played 5 and 6, so those would be fresh to me. I never played them until 7, 8, and the remakes. So I never played
Okay.
before that. But I went back and played the remaster of 1. That was really cool too.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you. I've never played 5, but I want to know why everyone seems to dislike it. I want to make my own decision, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm seeing a thread. Obviously, there's a clear relationship between Resident Evil and your game, SLACKJAW. We talked a little bit earlier, or you spoke a bit earlier about how you got into making games. But was there a light bulb moment when you went from playing games to going, "Oh, I can make these. I want to make my own game."
I wish I had that confidence. No, it was as I've been a gaming fan for most of my life. As I got older, a little bit in the background again after college, during that time, I was like, that would be cool to maybe learn to make one, maybe. And so then again, the pandemic, I was like, okay, well, maybe we'll sit down and make this. But basically, throughout the whole process, I was like, can I do this? Am I finally going to hit something I don't know how to figure out? So it wasn't really like, it was more like morbid curiosity. Can I make this? Than I'm following my dream and this is like what I've always meant to do. I'm like, it sounds like it would be really cool. I don't know if I'm able to pull this off, but like, let's give it a shot.
So, as the morbid curiosity part very much intrigues me. Is there Was there a point in your development journey where that became confidence?
Maybe after launch, like
Okay.
after it came out and it didn't completely break and streamers were playing it, I was like, oh, okay, cool. But sometimes, I don't know, it was kind of an ebb and flow, but it was more like, I really don't know if I can do this. I hope that I can, and I want to like see how far I can get. So really, I shouldn't have been so nervous because there wasn't anything I wasn't able to figure out eventually, like any bug I got stuck on. Um, but yeah, it was. I imagine it's kind of like when people try to run a marathon. They're like, "But can I?" You know what I mean? It's like about the like,
Yeah.
of it all. But yeah, now I feel much better because I'm like, oh, okay, now I know. Because I think what it is, to be more clear, is like you can watch devlogs for sure, which I did. And you can look up about game design, all that stuff. Until you actually do it, you don't actually really know totally what's involved. So it is kind of like fumbling in the dark. At least it felt. I assume if you go to game design school, you have a better idea. But it's like I knew, okay, you have to put everything in there. But the actual feeling of like, I'm going to make all the menus. Can you back out of the menus? What's the hover sound for the menu? How do I set up this inventory system? Because I've seen like 10 different tutorials where people do it differently. So it's more like, because it was so fumbling blind, it was a little nerve-wracking, but I powered through. I'm glad I stuck with it. So I learned a lot. Maybe that's the message. You learn.
Of course. And that's a massive achievement to make. That's a huge milestone. So congrats to you for launching SLACKJAW, and a game that, I mean, like he said, doesn't break, is a massive achievement in itself. And I do think it's an indie horror gem. I think it's a gem in general. I hope that you have instilled the confidence now, because you know you can do it. Like you said, that running a marathon it's an apt comparison, because it's very tough.
Yeah, I think so. It's like,
goes without saying.
like like, oh, I'm supposed to bring these snacks. I've got to train. But like, until you feel it in your body and actually do it, it's like a little bit different experience.
100%. Yeah, I mean, like anything that's worth doing is gonna have its own challenges, its own setbacks, and I feel like if you don't have those doubts, you're probably already not overconfident, but you've already done it. You've already scaled that obstacle. When you're going through it for the first time, I do think it is perfectly normal to have those doubts, but you overcame them. You're stronger. You're all the better for it.
Oh my
God. And let's talk about your time before a dev, because you mentioned how you compose music for indie games in the past. So how does that journey start?
How does that journey start? I went to school for music, and my master's degree was at Berkeley College of Music. They have a scoring for film, TV, and games 1-year master's. So that's where I actually learned like the software involved, because there's a lot of software involved in writing digital music, basically, because you can't always afford live recordings. So that's, up until then, I was a percussionist, actually. So mostly marimba, actually, but drums, all that good stuff, orchestral percussion mainly. And so I was like, I studied composition a little bit, because again, I was like, could I do it? I don't know. The composition and game development always seemed like the smart people do those over there. But at some point, something within me, I guess, was like, okay, let's give it a little shot, So hopefully, other people trying to do this should have more confidence, I think, because you can do it. But basically, that's when I learned the software of it all. But before that, I'd been studying composition, like how to actually write pieces, music theory, and all that good meat and potatoes. And then after college, I lived in Seattle a little bit, got some gigs from kind of the Seattle indie scene and online, doing a couple things here and there. And then, again, kind of a break during the pandemic when all the indie games kind of were like, we can't continue, which was fair. And then now kind of picking back up afterwards and after this game. But basically, so I just work remote. So I don't work for a studio or anything. I just work remote. And so I'll have like Zoom meetings, and then like I have like builds of the game, for example, and like, this is what we want the music to be. Here's where it's supposed to go. And then for my current projects, I'm also doing the Fmod, like the implementation of it in the game. They're both in Unity in this case, but so basically like how it works as a composition, putting different pieces together so they'll transition nicely for the player. It's a lot like the game development where you actually need to kind of test it out to see how it's working. So putting the pieces in game and making sure they work how you want, or making tweak. This whole thing's such an iterative process is what I've learned. Like both, anything to do with games. It's like you really, okay, maybe I will say someone 20 years deep into their career might be like, in my mind, I know how to execute, boom. But for me, it's like, okay, I got to hear it in the game. How do I like it? Is it too busy? Take it out. Okay, I've got to actually put the speed of the character movement in the game. Let me walk around. Let me see how it feels. So like I realized it's like, it's not like you're doing stuff and throwing it away. It's like you're doing it and then kind of revising it until you're either have a deadline or you're like, that's good enough. I don't know if that answered the question.
No, it did, definitely. Yeah. So, I mean, you've got a lot of music experience starting at college, and you spoke about, which was going to be my next question, but I love this because how the music and the games kind of meld together, and they are one and the same in a lot of parts, and how the right things make them tick, and how iterative the process is. Like you said, I think that it shows your creative side and your logical side perfectly, because having to go at it again and again and again and go, oh, I can improve this again, I can improve this. Yeah, okay, this doesn't work. Okay, scale it back a bit. That I love that, and I think that does expand to like other areas, even like of acting and content creation and video games and sports. There's a lot of like repetition, that like the old saying, practice makes perfect. So put in all that time in the lab and practicing and perfecting your craft, or perfecting that the sound effects or the UI, like you mentioned. All of that goes a long way, and it builds to hopefully a well-crafted cake. So with your experience in music, how does that lead to you going, I want to make my own game? I've made music for other games, I want to do this for myself.
I mean, the main impetus was that my other projects had dried up. So I was like, okay, well, instead of just kind of sitting around, I can like write music for my own game, perhaps. But yeah, I just think the whole field of game design is really interesting, right? Every game I've played, I love going like, why did they make these choices? Like, how far can I break the game? Like, how does this all work? I find that whole, because again, I think it's kind of like writing music for games where it's a puzzle. It's all just a puzzle, this whole thing. So if you like puzzles, you're good. But if you don't like puzzles, you're gonna have a rough time, because it is just like, how do I get these things to fit together? But I really like how music is so interactive. So then it was like, yeah, I just love games as an art form. So I was interested in how they're all put together, and how does the lighting work, and how does the actual under the hood code work. And luckily I was able to use my music and sound skills for this game. So the in-game music and then the in-game song, I'm really glad everyone seems to be vibing on the song. I don't know if you've heard the song. It's called I've Been Watching You. It's the song that the killer listens to when you're in the basement. And so I'm glad people have been liking that song, which was really nice to see. But and I was thinking, so like slight tangent, but this is now I'm on a tangent. But so one of the streamers that played it was this guy named Queso, and he was playing it live on Twitch. And then the song came on. He's like, W song, y'all, this is a banger song. And then the Twitch chat's going like, W song, W song. I was like, film composers are never going to feel the joy of seeing a Twitch chat spam W song. Like, it's just a different thing. So that was very nice. But anyway, but yeah, so basically I've always liked games. And I think it was just like, okay, let me try to, while I'm kind of sitting on my hands a little bit, let me try to see if I can learn how to do this.
Oh, fair enough. I mean, yeah, firstly, this is why I think video games are the pinnacle of entertainment, because the live interaction that you get, and that live, almost like a high that you get from someone appreciating your game, is unmatched. So I'm going to listen to this song after the podcast. So yeah, I'm a big fan of in-game music. Sorry We're Closed is an example of a game that had really cool original music, and I was just banging out those tracks. Like on my commute, so I'll bang out those tracks. So I'm definitely one who loves video game music, and I think because of your music background, I can already tell that the music in the game is going to be top notch, because you already know you have that skill set already. So I'm looking forward to that. It's interesting that you turned something that could have been a negative into such a positive. Like the lack of opportunities became a desire to feel that, and you used your own passion to fuel that. So what are some obstacles that you encountered while developing SLACKJAW?
Gosh, many. Let's see. Well, I developed it over about a year and a half, kind of spread out over almost 2 years. There was a gap in the middle. I got really sick and couldn't work on it, but about part-ish time for like a year and a half. So it was like the longest I've ever actually worked on anything. Every other soundtrack or music I've done has like been less than a year. So this was like, so I think some of the hardest, sorry, what was the question? The hardest moments or things that were
Some obstacles that you encountered.
Like I said earlier, the actual will to power through, to be like, I can do this, guys, come on, rally. Because it was a lot of fighting with like, is this even a good idea? Can I even do this? So there's a lot of like negative self-doubt you're kind of fighting with. But I think also the technical, like, I think bug hunting was really hard. The last 3 months the game was basically done and I was just bug hunting. And every time I played it, I'd find more bugs. And I was just like, will this end? And then also, so that was like an obstacle, was being like, again, like that mindset of, all right, this is just the process. You know what I mean? There's just, you got to keep combing through and keep polish and smooth it out. Another obstacle I would say is like, seems like no duh, but like, how do you make it a game? What does it mean to be a game? So like, should you be able to win or lose? How can you lose? How interactive does it need to be? Because I didn't really want it to be a pure on walking simulator, even though I like those. So I wanted you to be able to click on stuff and pick stuff up and things, because it's very simple escape room. But that is actually, I feel, a harder question to answer than I would have thought. It's like, okay, so should you be able to die? Because then I've also played games where you can't die. And it's like, well, maybe you should, because a game means you can win or lose, or what makes something an experience versus a game, right? You get what I'm saying? Like, is this just like a experience, or can I win and lose and like play it? So that was actually kind of tough. Then I settled on the escape room, which is, you win by escaping or you lose by getting caught. So it's pretty simple win or lose states. But that was a very strange obstacle. And then, I'd say just the coding in general was tough. And it was funny because even towards the end, when I would go back to fix a bug, I'd be like, I did not set this up very good. I could have set this up better. Like, you learn so quickly. Like, it's like looking back, I was just fixing something the other day because I'm doing some fixes and some achievements and stuff for the autumn sale, which is on Monday on Steam. But so pick it up, guys. But I was just in there, and I'm like, how do I fix a bug and not gut this whole system, because I haven't set it up that great now that I know more, but still fix it. So it's all difficult, but it is really nice to feel when you overcome an obstacle and you're like, wait, I can do things. And then it was really nice to be finished, and people generally liked it, and the streamers playing it was crazy weird. It was really bizarre. So it was worth it, overcoming the obstacles. Like, it was so weird because it's like, here's this thing. I've just been, again, another tangent. Stop me if I'm too tangential, but
no, please go.
Basically, it's like, here's this thing that's actually kind of intimate. I've been working on it by myself. I have some friends play it and whatever. My friends and family have played it. The handwriting is my handwriting. All the killer handwriting is my handwriting. The song I, of course, wrote, and the vocals are sung by my sister. The in-game person who's dead, you see her photos, is my other sister, my older sister. And then there's light spoiler, but you see driver's licenses with victim photos. That's me and my friends. So it's like, I spent forever. This is just living on my computer. What exact shade of the concrete should the concrete be? Went through 50 concrete textures. Okay, should this little jar be tilted this way or this way? Right? So it's like, it's just your little thing. So then to see the streamers do their own thing with it, like, some of them were kind of imagining things that weren't really going to happen because they didn't know what was going to happen. So they were kind of playing with it in kind of a different way than expected. They kept running back to like the starting room being like, I've got to hide. And it's like you made dolls and then you're watching someone else kind of make a story with them. So that was, I mean, I haven't watched them all because it is hard to watch because you're like, oh my God, what if it breaks on them? What happens? Like the queso video had screen tearing because I didn't add VSync because, long story short, I locked it at 30 on launch because I wasn't even sure if I could get it to optimize that correctly, but then I added 60. Anyway, I can't even watch it because I'm like, oh no, what have I done? But I mean, it didn't matter to him that much because he ended up finishing the whole game, but it's like, it is hard to watch because you're just like, it's weird. Like you make stuff because you want people to consume it. You want people to listen to music. You want people to play your games. You want people to see your art, right? It is a conversational thing, creating something, right? You do want someone to engage with it, right? But then when they do, you're like, why are you people here? This is so weird. You know what I mean? I was just like, what? What? Like I've got some comments on the YouTube video of the song. Like, I've been listening to this on repeat. I'm like, why? I mean, it's very nice, but it's like, it's weird because this is like my thing that's been sitting on here. And now it's just like, people could be playing it right now. That like freaks me out. That's a weird thought. It's like, oh, they could just like be playing it. Weird.
Yeah.
It's surreal. I don't know how else to, it's a weird feeling I did not anticipate. It's really strange. Yeah.
No, I completely get that. I wonder, this might be a random question.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get a similar kind of issue when it came to like you would I don't know if you're a vocalist, but if you would make music and then having to hear your own voice back, is that a similar issue that you
Yes,
had?
it is. Yeah. If anyone can relate to that, or you see a recording of yourself, or like you see your face mirrored the other way than you see in the mirror. It is like that because it's like, yeah, I try not to take the game too personally. Like it's not, I'm trying not to be precious about it, but it is I mean, however much you try to separate yourself, it is personal. So
100%.
it is like seeing yourself reflected or like a different angle of yourself at an event. You're like, what? Like it's weird.
Yeah, like I look like that.
It is like hearing your own voice. You're like, is that what I sound like to you guys?
Yeah. It's kind of surreal. Yeah. So I mean, this is once again, I will continue to heap praise because I think it's amazing to see that we're at a point now where people can fully develop games individually. Like I think that's so cool. What can you tell me about like the programming languages that you used and the engine that you use and all of those nooks and crannies? Like you obviously have a meticulous level of attention to design, like the angle of the jars and color schemes. What can you tell me about like the hard mechanics of coding and programming languages?
Yeah, I used Unreal, like the latest version. And I picked Unreal because I knew I wanted to do 3D games for sure. And then I also knew I wanted to use the visual scripting. So their coding is in visual language. So if you Googled it, someone watching could Google it. But basically it's like each part of the code is like little balls, almost like little fragments, and then you connect them with noodles. So you're not typing linear like this. It's like a whole string connected system. Okay. So I saw that people were making their entire games like that. And I know AAA companies on their job postings will put blueprints, is what the language is kind of called, on there. So I was like, okay, let's give it a try. Because I just knew I'm a visual learner and I would love to see it laid out like that, which I think was the right call. So I chose Unreal for that reason, for the 3D and the language. And so I just used that the whole time. There's nothing, I didn't even come close to reaching the end of those because I saw the developer, I forget his name at the moment, who developed Choo Choo Charles, entirely use that as well. So I was like, okay, that's way more complicated than what I'm trying to do. There's no way I will run into issues. But yes, so that was very complicated. Like, what is a variable? You know, what is an interface? How do I connect all this stuff? How do you set up, because how do you set up two things to talk to each other? Like this needs to check, like the record up there needs to check if you've made something that made a sound, so then it will stop. So what I thought was really interesting, which again, probably the computer science people are like, duh, but that there's multiple ways to do something, that did not really occur to me. So it's like, there is actually multiple ways to code the same thing. So it's like, what is best for if you wanted to extrapolate it out? Like all the items in there have the same code, they have the same parent. And so if I made one tweak, it would affect them all, which was great. But that took a while. I mean, it wasn't, it's hard because the YouTube tutorials are great, but they are mostly geared at beginners. So if you're trying to do anything a little bit more, it's hard to find them. So an example would be, I want to watch a tutorial on how to make an interact prompt. Like it comes up and you can interact with something. It'll show you, okay, show the prompt when you get close to it. And so you put that in your game. And then in practice, you're like, okay, well, I'm standing close to 2 items. It's showing both of them. So now I've got to do a line trace to the center of the screen to make it pick up which one I'm actually looking at. You see, so like it only gets you to a certain point. But I really enjoyed like putting in the lighting and the fog, and like there's a slight fisheye to the screen, and like the flashlight is like a little bit of off blue. So it's like, you know, I had fun with the visual stuff. And yeah, luckily, I think I saw a YouTube video that was, I thought, really good, which is like, if you're solo developing the game, yes, you can absolutely make every single thing yourself, Stardew Valley style. That's going to take 4 years and being a full-time job, which is what it took in my belief, which is fine. But try to lean on your strengths and then use assets where you can. So it's like all the sound effects are mine. It's weird because, again, about the intimacy, it's like those are like my kitchen cabinet doors opening. It's like I recorded like the sounds in there and the music. And then a lot of the models are in Unreal, also comes with a bunch of free stuff like in their store. That comes with its own caveat though, because they're all at like different levels of detail. So I ended up getting a little hurt by that in the optimization land, because they're all like different. The textures are at different resolutions for like different, because different people made different items. But Unreal has a nice in-engine little editor for models. So it's like, oh, I could get something. So like a good example is like the doors for the base, for the tunnel. There's like a metal door, and it is an asset from the marketplace free that is like a metal door, but it had like a really ornate top that I didn't like. So I cut that off. Then it didn't have any function to it. Like you couldn't actually move it. It had hinges, but they, you know, it was all one mesh, one object. So it's like I had to go in and like cut the hinges out and make those separate so then it could actually be functional. So it's like, but so yeah, dealing with all the models was a bit of a nightmare. So like the fridge, again, is an asset from a pack, and it was really pretty and shiny. So I had to like grime it up and add a bunch of weird texture to it, change the overall color, put all this weird stuff on the inside. So I guess I would advise, if someone's doing this themselves for the first time, to use, like if they, for example, wanted to use stock sound effects, I think that'd be totally fine. You know what I mean? If they were like modeling everything, you know what I mean? Try to like get what you can and then try to make it cohesive to the best of your ability. So it's like there's stuff from like, I was going to go through behind the scenes of the game, but basically I've got like 50 different packs I took stuff from, put them in a blank project, like a prop gallery, and then just went through and like picked my favorite things and like combine. Like again, another good example is the staircase up to the basement. It was a really long staircase that had a bend in it, which I didn't want. So I cut that, again, with the modeling tools in Unreal. Totally changed the texture of the wood because it needed to be more grimy. And then for some reason, I had to cut it again and then stitch the parts together. So it's like I've Frankensteined a lot of the assets to fit my need. Although you do have like the tool rack I made from scratch, because that's basic shapes, like squares. So the doors is another one. It's like actually a material of a door put on a plane, and then a handle from a totally different door that I cut off. So it was a lot of jimmy rigging.
Yeah, yeah, I get what you mean. Yeah, I definitely subscribe to the use your strengths, use what you can, and yeah, for what you can utilize, do, because you're making your life easier. So that's very cool.
Yeah, especially if it's basic things. Like I didn't use any code templates because I couldn't figure out, I didn't know enough actually to customize them enough. Because there is like a horror game template, but it just was not going to work for my purposes. But for example, if you wanted to use that, you know what I mean? I think use what you can and then tweak it to the best of your ability. But because I was doing all the coding, all the audio, and all the design, all the little assets, all the like notes and stuff, I made an Affinity Designer. And then quite a bit of the models, I was like, okay, let me just see if I can cut these to like work. And then so I think it worked fine, but it was like, yeah. So it was a lot of how can I make this work? A lot of kind of like those cooking shows where they give you a weird basket of ingredients. And they're like, make a dish out of it.
Yeah.
Like that's actually what it's like when you're like, okay, my budget's $0 and it's just me and my computer. So what can we do with this basket?
Yeah, that's a very good comparison, actually.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. We were like, I don't know how good this is going to taste, but I'm doing my best.
Yeah. Well, you can see the logic in each step. Yeah, that makes sense. That's gonna.
Yeah,
You
you're
know,
like, okay, well, since I have this, yeah, so it's a lot of because I have this, maybe this would work. So
yeah, it's a lot of sensible decisions from the sounds of it. So I apologize for it being this late before asking this question. Without spoiling SLACKJAW, what could you tell us about the synopsis?
Oh, well, it's it's very simple. You're trapped in a serial killer's basement and you've got to get out. And it's a puzzly escape room, basically. And it's pretty short. It's like under an hour abouts, depending on how puzzle oriented you are. And you've got to escape and be quiet and not get caught and try to survive. That's yeah. So yeah, because again, I was actually started by making a different game first. That was getting way too big, and I was like, I don't know if I can do this. So part of SLACKJAW's impetus was like, can I make a game in one room? Of course, I added little rooms because you always add stuff. But actually, it kind of started as an exercise of like, can I make a functional game and release it? That's like a tiny little guy that takes place in a room, basically. So then I think escape room worked well for that. Because also it's like, if your game's so short, how can you teach people a bunch of mechanics they're not going to use because the game will be over? You know what I mean? Right. So it's like, what? We don't need to know how to shoot because we're not going it. You know. So that was also a challenge again of like how to make it a game. But yeah, so it's basically an escape room. That's kind of a good way to think of it.
Well, yeah, that is a really good point. Things happen. I hope so.
I don't know. Who knows?
Those are my favorite type of games when things happen. I love that.
Things happen.
That's a really good point that I guess you wouldn't even think about it straight away in terms of overloading the player, right? Like you said.
Yeah, that's another thing. How do you teach them?
Yeah.
Like, because I had some of my playtesters, my friends and family, who like when the inventory opened, they didn't even know it was an inventory. They didn't know like what was happening. So it's like, okay, I had a little tutorial prompt like, this is your inventory. So it's like, that's why you got to have people test it and like also look at the feedback after more people have played it and be like, oh, okay. Because you know how it's supposed to go. So it's like, oh, it actually isn't clear that that's what you're supposed to do.
Again, that's a very important part of video game development. You need to have people outside of yourself test it. Trial and error is a very useful thing. Like you perfectly said, all the context behind your game. You're literally the one building it. But someone else who has, let's say, no context or experience. Yeah. Does it make sense to someone who's a stranger? Does it make sense to someone picking it up for the first time? That's a very important rule of thumb when it comes to making a video game. What's one thing that you saw a streamer experience or comment on in your game that you weren't expecting them to pick up on?
I think I was surprised how much they got into the notes that don't have to do with the puzzles, really, or like the lore. Because I was like, there is a story in there to the best of my abilities. I was like, okay. But they were like, really like, okay, which girl am I? If he's stalking that girl, then who am I in the order of the girls? It's like they were like getting into it. And then also like, yeah, it was just weird. It was weird to see them feel the emotions I was going for. So they'd hit the bones and then crouch and be like, oh my God, is he gonna go down now? What's happened? And then you can play a VHS tape that's got some creepy footage on it. And they were like, oh my God, this is so creepy. He's like stalking them. Like what's happening? So I think just any of the lore, like the not game part, like there's some notes in there that don't have to do with any puzzle at all. They're just like for kind of world building, but they were like really reading them, and they were like, oh, okay, like yeah. So I was like, oh, cool. Like it's nice. It's like to see that they looked at the details, or they would go really slow and look at like I made some jars with some guts in it, and they were like, ooh, what's in here?
Oh, that's cool.
So that was nice. So yeah, any attention to detail and like lore stuff, that was surprising and nice.
I think that's a really big compliment when you see people trying to unpick your game and not just literally try to break it for kicks and giggles, but like literally looking at every little detail, trying to figure things out that you haven't considered or put as part of the challenge or the game. I do think I'm definitely one of those people who I just read notes. And if I'm not streaming, I will literally finger read. But even when I'm streaming games, I will read all the lore, all the stuff, and try to. I like world building as well, so I will put things together and contextualize the game and the world for myself. So I like that. I think that's a very cool thing. Now, obviously, you are a certified developer. There's no bones or questions about it. Is there going to be a future game in your? Is it a ludography? Or what's it called? The gaming history, gaming career? I don't know.
Discography, but yeah, for games.
Exactly, right?
Definitely we gotta do another one, because I feel like I could do so much better now, and I want to actually apply everything I've learned. Like I feel like now I'm like, okay, I get it. You know what I mean? Now I'm like, okay, understood. And again, I feel more confident having actually released it, because that was the main goal of this game, is like, I need to finish it, put it out there, and let nature deal with it. Definitely, I don't know if it'll be solo developed again, to be honest, because I'm like, all the ideas I have are possibly too big for me to do by myself. But yeah, I think definitely I want to apply my skills at some point. So I'm kicking the tire on some ideas, but yeah, it's like now I'm like, okay, now I get it. I think I could do. I think I now have a better idea of what it would take to make certain things now. Because you don't really know. That's why scope creep is such a big thing for the indie developers. Yeah. The first time is they're like, I'll just add, because again, I'll go through it in my video, but I cut a bunch of stuff too to like make it so I could actually finish. But yeah, oh no, then I'm doing an open world RPG with like 20 characters. I'm like, love that for you. But in practice, that is going to take forever. So it's like, now I'm like, okay. You know what I mean? Now I can actually see how much work it was to make my little baby cutscenes. There's barely any cutscenes in it, but you have to like hand animate the motion of the camera, because it's in like first place along this timeline. Right. It's in first person. And then have a door open or whatever little things. So it's like, now I'm like, okay, that did take a long time to even do something that simple. So definitely, I just don't know what it will be or when.
Fair enough. Yeah, whether it's a SLACKJAW 2 or something completely different, we'd love to have you on again to talk about all of that. And I can't wait to see this video about the behind the scenes, because I love seeing how the sausage is made. I love all the behind the scenes stuff of like his stuff we needed to cut. And you called it what, scope creep?
Scope creep is like the term of like, it's a developer term for like when you just want to add more. It like sneaks in there. You're like, okay, it's like if you give a mouse a cookie. I don't know if you know that book. If I add 20 characters, they all need to have 20 different outfits. Then they need to have 20 different shoes. Like it just sneaks up on you. Right. So part of actually finishing is reining that in, being like, okay, this is now the border of what the game will be, and I will just make it work within that.
Completely fair. It's definitely a running theme I've noticed from the developers I've spoken to on this podcast. They have this great idea, but then because obviously the imagination is so vast.
Yeah, you're like, well, what if like it's 10 hours? And
yeah.
Like, okay, well, in reality, I don't know about that as a solo person, but
100 hours, 10 main characters, 50 types of
enemies. It happened to me too, because again, that was my first game I was making. As I was like, oh, well, this is cool. What about this? And then I was like, this is so unmanageable. I'm going to reset to the smaller room, which is SLACKJAW.
And you might have touched on it earlier, but what were some determining factors on what ideas you kept and what you just let go?
If I could execute them where it like was not cheap or cheesy, because like some things I could have put in there and I was like, this would look, I just don't have the skills to like animate this to look nice. And so it would like basically my determining thing is, would adding this actually negatively affect the overall quality? Then bring it up. Because if it's not going to bring it up, I shouldn't add it. So so some of those things now I'm like, okay, I actually know how I would do this. Or when I was playing it again, I think seasoned game developers would know what their ideas would translate. Probably they'd know if it was going to work. But I had some ideas I had to put in, and then I played them and I was like, oh, this is actually a lot of sitting around and this is kind of really boring now. Like I had to think from the player's perspective, like, oh, I thought this would be cool, but as a player, you are just sitting here. And my game doesn't have a save, so you do have to reset. You have to restart. And so I made it so you could like speed run it if you remembered what to do. So that was another factor where I was like, there were some things that were going to be timed. And so I was like, oh, if you die and have to reset, you have to wait through this whole thing again. You know what I mean? So that was like how I kind of determined what would stay and what would go.
It's completely logical. That makes a lot of sense. I like that. Escape room, but you didn't use the timer as as your win or loss factor. So what did you use? Was it just the serial
It's
killer
just
catching
getting
you?
out. Yeah,
Okay,
getting out or getting caught. Yeah. So yeah, there is no
Okay.
timer. There is no timer, like you have to get out in a certain X amount of time. I could add that as a little feature too. There's some ideas to add things, but yeah, I didn't want you to, if you died, I was trying to think, if you die, do you want to have to sit through whatever this is again when you can't do anything? You know, so I was trying to think of, as the player, is this actually nice? No, then it should not be in here.
Yeah, that's very cool. That makes a lot of sense. Obviously, with you being such a talented musician, I wanted to flip the script a little bit and ask you what some of your favorite soundtracks in video games are.
Ooh, okay. Off the top of my head, I would have to say the Cult of the Lamb soundtrack, which is by Riverboy, Narayan Johnson. He's no longer with us, sadly, but I think that's the greatest soundtrack of the games of the 21st century. Do I stand by that? Let me think. I think I stand by that. I think I'm putting that down. It's just so good. When I played it, I was like, I would have loved to write something like this, but I do not possess the ability. I was like, I just never would have got there. Like I never would have come up with it, but it's so perfect. I don't know if have you played that game, Cult of the Lamb?
I've not, but it's one of those games that I'm gonna play
really
at
good.
one point because everyone I know talks about it.
It's really good, and the
I got FOMO.
soundtrack, the soundtrack is how it works in the game is fantastic. How it weaves in between the different tracks, how it has a little filter when you're designing your new cult member, and then it also is just this banger to just listen to on Spotify. So I'd say that I'm putting that at the top. I'm putting that best one of the 21st century. I don't know what else game soundtrack wise. I mean, of course, the Last of Us soundtrack is great.
Oh, so
All
good.
the beautiful guitar work there. I really like, I'm not as massive fan of the orchestral ones, to be quite honest. I kind of like the weirdo ones. That's why I like The Last of Us is all this guitar stuff. And Cult of the Lamb is like marimbas and synths and voices. It's like really weird. Stardew Valley, of course. That's a really good one. I love how the themes for the different areas are so nice. That's again a weird, I like the weird instrumentations. An orchestral game soundtrack that I really like. I'll have to look through my Spotify. I can't think off the top of my head. I'm sure I'm missing somebody. I like the Assassin's Creed 2 soundtrack. Again, that's got a lot of like Renaissance kind of music in it, and then the synth music, which is like a cool contrast. But yeah, definitely, if anyone checks out anything from here, it should be the Cult of the Lamb soundtrack.
I'm gonna somehow make that
it's a bang. You're gonna be like, this is a banger. This is just straight
certified
bops,
banger.
actually.
Yeah, obviously hit you up after this. Saying you're right, Taylor.
Yeah, it's fire. Yeah, for sure. I love it.
Put Cult of the Lamb is the greatest soundtrack of any video game in the 21st century.
I actually feel really good about that statement, actually. And I know The Last of Us is included in that. I still feel good about that statement. I'm sorry. Listen to
don't
it
be
and see
sorry.
if I'm cooking. See if anyone's unsure about that, listen to it and then come back. I think
You've heard
I feel
it.
good about that. Yeah,
Yeah. I'll
that's
put
the
that
hill I'm
call
gonna
out.
die on. I think. Yeah, for sure.
You know what? That's a worthy hill. I think,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's amazing.
I love that, and I'm the same. I like a lot of weird music. I love a synth. I love unique sounding instruments and unique sounding
Yeah,
instrumentals. So
you'll
yeah,
love
I'm
this then. It's
completely completely with you there. So you mentioned that you're definitely going to make more video games. I want to shout out SLACKJAW once again, which is going on sale on Monday. You
yeah
said
in the autumn sale. Yeah, on
yes,
Monday.
in the autumn sale. Taylor, why don't you tell the lovely viewers and or listeners how they can support you, SLACKJAW, and Nostromo Interactive, right? That's
Yeah,
the
that's my publisher. That's me. That's my developer name. Buying the game would be sweet. Love that. Stream the soundtrack, Spotify. It's also on Bandcamp. But yeah, just playing the game. Leave a review, leave comment. Mostly playing the game and listening to the soundtrack. And then if you want to follow, Instagram is my personal Instagram, but that's probably where I'd post stuff. But I also have a Discord. It's on the Steam page, and that's definitely where I would post stuff for whatever the next game is. But yeah, anything like that.
awesome. And finally, what's the one thing you're most proud of when it comes to SLACKJAW?
That I finished, and I released it because it was really touch and go there. I'm gonna be for real. I was like, I don't know about this. So it's only came out last month, yeah, and I still feel I can't believe it. I'm just like, wow, it's done. It's just out there. So I'm glad. I kept thinking, should I push it off, whatever. So I'm glad I just, you have to. I think things aren't ever going to go as badly as you think, and you do have to just put yourself out there at a certain point. At a certain point, you have to say, this is the time. I can tweak this for infinity if you're a perfectionist person. And you just have to go, now's the time. It must go out, and I must just accept what people think, they dislike about it, whatever. So I'm very proud of myself for putting myself out there and just being like, here I go, put myself out there. Would anyone enjoy this little game here to give it a little taste? Because that was very hard. So yeah, put yourself out there. It can't go that badly, I think, knock on wood. I mean, I think if you try, someone will get that. So it's worth it to, post your art, post your music. Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. As a perfectionist, you can be bogged down.
Like, I can tweak this forever, though. It's not perfect. It's like, well, you've got to let it go sometimes.
Your idea.
It's hard.
But yeah, sometimes you literally just gotta kick that door down and pull it out, and you can improve it once it's out. And that's something with video games you can do now. Once it's out, you can always fix it.
It's very easy to push I've only pushed one update so far right after to add some settings, but it's very easy. Steam makes it actually very easy to push an update. But yeah, it's like, but also it comes to a point where it's like, what can you need to hear the feedback of how people interact with it. It is a conversation. So it's like at a certain point, you've done the best you can do. Now you've got to put your music or whatever out there and then see what people are vibing on. They like this part. This part could use some help, whatever. So it's interesting.
Yeah, 100%. And similarly, sometimes you just got to put out that podcast episode.
Yep.
That's advice that I had to take 7 years ago.
There you go.
And now we're here.
Yeah.
Exactly. Musician, developer, Taylor Ambrosio Wood, developer of the fantastic indie horror gem SLACKJAW, and many more games to come. Make sure, while you're at it, check out her website, taylorambrosiawood.com. If you search SLACKJAW on Steam, you should be taken to the game as well. Make sure you check that out. It will be going on the autumn sale this coming Monday. And after you've done all that, follow her on Instagram. I think it's Taylor Ambrosio Wood on Instagram. Yeah, so show your support there. And you can follow us on Instagram, Streamcast_. Streamcast _ on Twitter and TikTok as well. If you're watching this live, give us a thumbs up. We really appreciate it. That helps us out greatly. I've heard YouTube have changed their algorithm again, so we need all the help we can get. Please give us a thumbs up. Please subscribe. It costs you nothing. The next podcast we're going to have on will be on Monday, the 29th of September from 7 p.m. BST. And it will be with Tyreek Plummer of Scrubbing Trouble. That is the game he's developing. So I'm very excited to talk to him about that game. I will be live just before 10 p.m. covering tonight's State of Play on our Twitch and gaming YouTube channel. So if you subscribe here and you go to the main page, there should be a link towards the bottom of the page taking you to our second YouTube channel and twitch.tv/Streamcast TV as well. And we're also doing events. So if you like gaming, if you like the cozy atmosphere, or you just want to bring back the atmosphere of playing games with your friends and finding out which one of you is the best, we have the Streamcast Club, and the next one will be on the 2nd of October from 7 p.m. BST over at Zombie Games Cafe. We are so humbled and appreciative of the support and the feedback we've received so far. So make sure you check it out. At least there'll be a link in the description and in the comment section in 8 days. But oops, I want to take this off now. Thank you once again, Taylor, for agreeing to come on the podcast. I really appreciate your insight. And I hope to have you on again.
Thanks for having me.
Until, I guess, 10 p.m. tonight, take care of yourselves and your loved ones. Stay safe. We'll see you on the next Streamcast.